What if the most dangerous person in the world isn't the tyrant, the criminal, or the corrupt politician, but the good person? The one who follows the rules, obeys without question, and never challenges the system? George Orwell spent his life warning us about this. Not about the obvious villains, but about the well-meaning people who, in their silence, their compliance, their refusal to see the truth, become the gears that keep oppression turning. Think about it. How many atrocities in history were carried out not by monsters, but by ordinary people who believed they were doing the right thing? The bureaucrats who signed the orders, the teachers who taught the propaganda, the neighbors who reported suspicious behavior. Orwell's warning wasn't just about dictators. It was about us, about how easily good intentions can be weaponized, about how the most terrifying systems don't rely on evil people. They rely on good ones who refuse to question. So let's ask the uncomfortable question. Are you the kind of good person Orwell was afraid of? There's something seductive about believing you're on the right side, about having a clear enemy, an unquestionable cause, a moral high ground to stand on. Feels safe, feels clean. Orwell saw this firsthand in the Spanish Civil War. He went to fight fascism, only to discover that the side he joined, the supposed good guys, had their own secret police, their own purges, their own lies. The revolutionaries who claimed to stand for justice were executing people in the dark. And that's when it hit him. The most dangerous fanatics aren't the ones who know they're evil. They're the ones who believe with absolute certainty that they're good. Because if you're convinced of your own righteousness, you'll justify anything. Surveillance for security. Censorship to protect the truth. Betrayal, a necessary sacrifice. This is the trap of moral certainty. It doesn't just blind you to your own flaws. It makes you ruthless in defending them. So ask yourself, when was the last time you questioned your own side? We like to think that if we lived in Nazi Germany or Stalin's Russia, we'd be the brave ones, the resistors, the truth-tellers, the defiant. But Orwell knew better. Most people don't collaborate because they're evil. They do it because it's easier. Because speaking up costs something, your job, your reputation, maybe your life. And so, inch by inch, they learn to look away, to rationalize, to tell themselves, it's not that bad. Until one day, it is. Orwell called this moral cowardice. Not the dramatic kind, but the quiet, everyday surrender. The little lies we tell ourselves to stay comfortable. The way we trade principles for peace of mind. Think about it. How many times have you swallowed your words because it wasn't the right time to speak? How often have you laughed at a joke you didn't find funny, nodded along to an opinion you didn't share, stayed silent when something felt off, just to avoid rocking the boat? That's how tyranny wins. Not because monsters force us, but because good people let them. The real test of character isn't what you believe, it's what you're willing to risk for it. No one wakes up one day and decides to become complicit in something monstrous. It happens in whispers, a shrug here, a compromise there. Orwell understood this better than anyone. In 1984, Winston's co-workers at the Ministry of Truth don't just rewrite history, they forget they ever rewrote it. The lies become truth simply because no one pushes back. But here's what's terrifying. You don't need a totalitarian regime for this to happen. It's happening right now every time we stay silent when a friend spreads a harmful lie because it's not worth the argument. Pretend not to notice injustice because someone else will deal with it. Let fear of backlash dictate what we say or don't say. These aren't grand, dramatic failures of morality. They're tiny surrenders. But add them up and suddenly you're living in a world where lies are normal, cruelty is routine, and the unthinkable is just how things are. Orwell's warning? The road to hell isn't paved with evil intentions. It's paved with good people who kept telling themselves, it's just this once. There's a deep human hunger to be part of something, to feel accepted, to be on the right side of history, to stand with the tribe. And that hunger can make us do frightening things. Orwell saw this in the true believers of every ideology. The communists, the fascists, the imperialists, all convinced they were the heroes of their own story. But here's the catch. No ideology, no movement, no system is immune to corruption. Not even yours, not even mine. Because the moment you trade thinking for belonging, you've already lost. You stop questioning. You start justifying. And before you know it, you're cheering for things that would have horrified you a year ago. This is why Orwell didn't trust isms. He trusted people, real, flawed, thinking people. Not the ones who parroted slogans, but the ones who dared to ask, wait, does this actually make sense? So here's the uncomfortable question. Are your beliefs truly yours? Or are they just the price of admission to a group you're afraid to leave? Orwell didn't just fear lies, he feared the erosion of truth. The way words could be hollowed out until they meant nothing at all. Think about it. Freedom meaning oppression. Peace meaning surrender. Justice meaning revenge. When language becomes this slippery, how do you even think straight? In 1984, the party doesn't just control what people say, it controls what they can say. War is peace. Ignorance is strength. Twist the words enough, and reality itself bends. But you don't need a dystopia for this. It's happening now every time. A government calls censorship protection. A corporation rebrands exploitation as opportunity. A movement replaces debate with dogma and calls it progress. The moment we let words lose their meaning, we lose our grip on truth. And without truth, there's no resistance. Just confusion, exhaustion, and surrender. The first casualty of tyranny isn't freedom, it's language. Orwell's greatest lesson wasn't about how systems corrupt. It was about how individuals resist. Not with grand gestures, but with stubborn, daily acts of mental independence. In 1984, Winston's rebellion begins in the smallest way possible. A private thought. Just the act of writing freedom is the freedom to say that 2 + 2 make 4 in his forbidden journal. That's all. No protests, no speeches, just the refusal, in his own mind, to let go of what he knows is true. And that's where real resistance always starts. Not with heroes, but with ordinary people who notice when something doesn't add up, refuse to call lies mistakes, dare to trust their own eyes over the official story. This isn't about politics. It's about sanity. The world will always try to bully you into agreement, with fear, with shame, with the threat of being left behind. But Orwell's warning cuts deeper. The moment you surrender your right to say, 2 + 2 = 4, you've already lost everything. Orwell died young. At 46, ravaged by tuberculosis, knowing his time was running out. But in his last years, he left us something more vital than just warnings. A way forward. It's not about being a hero. It's about being awake. Every day, in ways large and small, we're tested. When we hear a lie and decide whether to repeat it. When we see cruelty and calculate the cost of speaking up. When we feel that quiet pressure to nod along. The systems of the world, the governments, the algorithms, the ideologies, they're all counting on one thing. That good people will stay quiet just a little longer. But here's the truth Orwell fought for. The most revolutionary act is often simply refusing to pretend. Not joining the chant. Not looking away. Not letting the words in your mouth taste like ash. You don't have to storm the barricades. You just have to keep your mind your own. Because in the end, the world isn't changed by the perfectly righteous. It's saved by the stubbornly human. So tell me, what will you refuse to pretend today? If this reckoning with Orwell's warning resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What truth have you had to fight to hold on to? And if you found this perspective valuable, consider sharing it with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the most dangerous thing a good person can do is stay silent.